The key felt like fire in my hand. I stood there, frozen in the hallway of my own house, staring at a door I'd never been allowed to open. 32 years. That's how long my wife Clarissa kept this room locked. And now she was dead, buried 2 weeks ago under a willow tree at Crestwood Cemetery, and I was finally about to see what she'd hidden from me all this time. My finger touched the lock. The beep echoed through the empty house. The door clicked open. What I saw inside made my blood run cold. Not because it was shocking in the way you'd expect. No affair, no drugs, no crime scene. It was worse. It was a whole life. A life she'd lived without me, behind a door 20 feet from our bedroom. Children stared at me from the walls. Dozens of them. Framed photographs arranged like a shrine. And beneath each photo, labels. Names. Dates. Payment records. My wife hadn't just kept secrets. She'd built an entire world I wasn't part of. Let me tell you how I got here. Because the woman I married, or thought I married, wasn't who she pretended to be. And the worst part? I helped her hide it, just by trusting her too much. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. My name is Howard Kane. I teach history at Crestwood High School in Virginia. For 32 years, I was married to Clarissa Kane, a woman everyone in town admired. Smart. Successful. Beautiful. She ran a design firm from home, pulling in more money each year while I graded essays and coached the debate team. We lived in a colonial house with white shutters and a porch swing. Every evening, I'd sit on that swing with sweet tea, watching fireflies, waiting for her to finish work. She always worked late. Sometimes past midnight. And her office was always locked. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Everyone needs privacy, right? I figured it was her space to focus, to create, to handle clients who trusted her with sensitive projects. That's what she told me, anyway. But years passed, and that locked door started feeling less like privacy and more like a wall. A barrier she'd built between us that grew thicker with every click of that digital lock. Still, I didn't pry. My father raised me to believe trust is sacred. He used to say, if you have to look through someone's things, you've already lost them. So I didn't look. Not once. Not until she died and left me standing in front of that door with no choice but to open it. We met in college. She was 21, driven, confident in a way that both scared and excited me. I was quieter, happier with books than ambition. She wanted her name in papers. I wanted to teach kids about the past. Somehow, we fit. Or I thought we did. The first decade was good. We laughed. We traveled. We made plans. But somewhere around year 15, things changed. She started spending more time in that office. Our conversations got shorter. Our dinners got quieter. Affection faded like old paint on a fence. But I never suspected betrayal. Not once. I thought distance was just what happened in long marriages. I thought we were still solid underneath. I was wrong about everything. The office sat at the end of the second-floor hallway, right next to the guest room nobody ever used. Frosted glass doors. Digital lock. She installed it herself, said it was for security. I didn't argue. Every night, after washing dishes or grading papers, I'd hear her footsteps on the stairs. The soft click of her heels. The beep of the lock. Then light glowing under the door until dawn. Once, early in our marriage, I asked her about it. What exactly do you work on that needs this much privacy? She smiled without looking up from her laptop. Design projects. Clients trust me with confidential material. That was it. She never offered more. I never pushed. Good husbands don't push, right? They trust. But there were signs I ignored. unexplained trips she'd take for client meetings, envelopes in the mail with no return address that she'd grab before I could see, random deposits into our joint account she'd brush off as client advances. I told myself not to make trouble. That's what you do when you love someone. You give them space. You trust them. Until they're gone, and the locked door is still there, mocking you. It was a Tuesday morning in May. The air smelled like lilac. Clarissa was pouring coffee, humming something I didn't recognize. Then she stopped. Her hand went to her head. She dropped the cup. By the time she hit the floor, I was already screaming her name. The ambulance came. The paramedics tried. But she was gone before we reached the hospital. Brain aneurysm. Sudden. No warning. Just gone. I remember sitting in that kitchen hours later, staring at the coffee stain on the tiles. It's strange what your mind locks onto when grief hasn't set in yet. Not her face. Not her voice. Just that brown stain spreading across white tile. The funeral happened. People came. They cried. They brought casseroles. Her sister Margot flew in from Seattle and sobbed into my shoulder, promising to help me sort everything out. But when the condolences faded and everyone went home, I was alone. Just me and that house full of silence. And that locked door upstairs. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Margot found the key 2 weeks after the burial. She was going through Clarissa's dresser, looking for jewelry to keep, when she discovered a small metal box hidden under scarves. Inside was a single silver key. "It might be for that office," she said, handing it to me. Her eyes looked worried. "But maybe don't rush. You might not like what you find." Those words haunted me. For 3 days, I carried that key in my pocket. I'd stand outside the office door, hand shaking, but I couldn't bring myself to use it. Part of me wanted to believe Clarissa's secrets were innocent. Work files. Old tax records. Nothing that would hurt. But another part of me, the part that remembered her late-night whispers on the phone, the unexplained trips, the way she'd flinch when I walked into a room too quickly, that part knew better. On the 4th day, I finally did it. I slid the key into the lock. Heard the click. Felt the door give way under my hand. And stepped into a room that destroyed everything I thought I knew about my wife. The office was spotless. Organized. A mahogany desk sat in the center with 2 computers, stacks of labeled folders, and a safe in the corner. But what stopped me cold were the photographs covering one entire wall. Children. Different ages. Different faces. Each one framed carefully, arranged with precision. And beneath each photo, names, dates, and what looked like tuition payment records. At first, I thought maybe she sponsored students. Some kind of charity work she never mentioned. But then I saw the letters. Handwritten. In her elegant script. Dozens of them, scattered across the desk like confessions. "You'll always have what I couldn't. Don't let him find out. This is for your future, my love." My love. Not, dear student. Not, sweet child. Just my love. The room suddenly felt freezing. I moved to the safe next, hands trembling so hard I could barely work the combination Margot had found written in Clarissa's planner. Inside were documents. Legal papers. Bank statements. And one birth certificate that made my heart stop. Julian Reed. Born 27 years ago. Mother, Clarissa Kane. Father, unknown. As the silence swallowed our home, all I could hear was that door, still locked, even now, waiting to tell me the rest of the truth I wasn't ready for. 27 years ago, Clarissa took a trip to California. I remember because it was the only time in our marriage she'd been gone that long. 3 weeks. She said it was for a big client, some design contract that could make her career. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? We were newlyweds. I trusted her completely. She kissed me goodbye that morning, said she'd call when she landed. But for 3 weeks, she barely did. When she finally came home, something was different. She was quieter, distant, like she'd left part of herself in California and brought back only the shell. I asked if everything was okay. She smiled and said she was just exhausted from work. I accepted it because accepting was easier than questioning. That trip was when Julian was born. And I never knew. Sitting in that office, staring at his birth certificate, I felt like I was drowning. Every memory I had of our marriage suddenly looked different. Every smile she'd given me felt like a lie. Every time she'd locked that door, she was protecting him. Not her work. Him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But all I could do was sit there, holding that certificate, trying to breathe. Clarissa and I met at Virginia State University in 1991. She was a junior, studying design. I was a senior, finishing my teaching degree. She walked into the campus coffee shop one October morning, and I swear the whole room shifted. She had this confidence about her. Not arrogant, just sure. Like she knew exactly who she was and where she was going. I was the opposite. Quiet. Unsure. Happy to blend in. But she noticed me anyway. "You always sit in the same spot," she said, sliding into the chair across from me without asking. "Same time. Same coffee. You're predictable." I blinked at her. "Is that bad?" She smiled. "No. It's safe. I like safe." That's how it started. She'd join me for coffee. We'd talk about everything, her dreams of running her own firm, my plans to teach history, the future we thought we could build together. She made me feel like I mattered, like my quiet life had value. We got married 2 years later. Small wedding. Her parents didn't come, something about disapproving of her choices, but my family loved her. Everyone did. The first 10 years were good. We bought the house in Crestwood. She started her business. I got the teaching job at the high school. We talked about having kids someday, but she always said she wasn't ready. I didn't push. I figured we had time. But around year 15, things shifted. She started working longer hours. The office became her second home. Our conversations got shorter, more functional. We'd talk about bills, groceries, whose turn it was to take out the trash. But we stopped talking about us. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. I thought it was normal. Marriages cool down, right? You settle into routines. The passion fades, but the partnership stays. That's what I told myself. I was lying to myself as much as she was lying to me. The office became a symbol. Every night, I'd watch her walk upstairs, hear the lock click, and feel that distance grow. Sometimes I'd stand outside the door, listening. I'd hear her typing, talking on the phone in a low voice I couldn't make out. Once, I swear I heard her crying. I knocked. "Clarissa, you okay?" The door opened just a crack. Her eyes were red, but she smiled. "I'm fine. Just tired. Go to bed, Howard." I went to bed. Because that's what I did. I trusted her. I gave her space. I convinced myself that prying would make things worse. But space became distance. Distance became silence. And silence became the thing that killed us. There were other signs I ignored. Little things that didn't add up. Like the envelopes. Every few months, she'd get mail with no return address. She'd grab them before I could see, shove them in her purse, and disappear into the office. When I asked about them, she'd say they were invoices. Client contracts. Nothing important. Or the trips. She'd leave for a weekend, sometimes a week, always for client meetings. She'd come back tired, quieter than before. I'd ask how it went. She'd say fine. That was it. Just fine. And the money. Random deposits into our joint account. Thousands of dollars at a time. When I noticed, she'd brush it off. Client advance, she'd say. I'll explain later. She never did. I should have asked more questions. I should have pushed harder. But I didn't want to be that husband, the one who didn't trust his wife. So I let it go. I let all of it go. Until she died, and I couldn't let it go anymore. Looking through her office that night, I found more than just Julian's birth certificate. I found bank statements showing regular payments to a trust fund in his name. Tuition payments to private schools. Letters she'd written to him over the years, filled with love and guilt. One letter, dated 5 years ago, stopped me cold. Julian, my sweet boy. You've grown into a man I'm so proud of. I wish I could tell the world you're mine. But I can't. If Howard knew, it would destroy him. And I can't destroy the one good thing I managed to keep. The one good thing. Me. She thought I was the good thing. The safe thing. And Julian was the secret thing. The thing she couldn't let go of, but couldn't bring into the light. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to tear up every letter, burn every photo. But I couldn't. Because underneath the anger, I felt something worse. Grief. Not just for losing her, but for realizing she'd been alone with this secret for our entire marriage. She'd carried it every single day, locked behind that door, unable to tell me because she was afraid I'd leave. And the worst part? She might have been right. If she'd told me 27 years ago that she had a son, would I have stayed? I want to say yes. I want to believe I would have understood. But I don't know. I was young, proud. I believed in honesty and trust, and finding out she'd hidden something that big might have broken me. So she chose silence. She chose to lock the door and carry the weight alone. And now she was gone, and I was left standing in the wreckage of her secret life. I spent the next 3 days in that office, reading every letter, every document, every piece of evidence she'd left behind. I learned that Julian's father was a man she'd dated before me. Someone who'd left her when she got pregnant. She never told him about Julian. Never asked for help. She handled it alone. When we met, she was already sending money to Julian's foster family. She kept it up after we married, funneling cash from her business into his care. She'd visit him once or twice a year under the guise of work trips. She'd watch him grow up from a distance, never able to be his mother in public. And she'd loved him. Every letter made that clear. She loved him desperately, painfully. But she loved me too. And she thought she couldn't have both. So she split herself in half. One half for me. One half for him. And the office was where the two halves met, every night, in secret. I found a photo of Julian from last year. He was 26, standing in front of a building with blueprints in his hand. He looked like her. Same dark eyes. Same serious expression. Same quiet intensity. Seeing his face made it real. He wasn't just a name on a birth certificate anymore. He was a person. Her son. A man who'd grown up without a mother because she'd been too afraid to tell the truth. I sat there, staring at his photo, and for the first time since she died, I cried. Not for me. Not for the lies. But for her. For the weight she'd carried. For the fear that made her lock that door every night. She kissed me goodbye that morning, said she'd call when she landed. But for 3 weeks, she didn't. And when she came back, she was different. Because she wasn't just my wife anymore. She was a mother who couldn't be a mother. A woman split in two. And I never knew. I started noticing the sounds the week after we moved into the house. Clarissa's office was directly above our bedroom. Sometimes, late at night, I'd hear footsteps, the creak of her chair, the low murmur of her voice. At first, I thought she was on client calls. But who takes calls at 2 in the morning? One night, I couldn't sleep. The sounds were louder than usual. I got up, walked to the hallway, and stood outside her office door. Light glowed underneath. I heard her voice, soft but strained. "I know," she was saying. "I know. But I can't. Not yet." Silence. Then, "He doesn't know anything. And he can't. Please understand." I knocked. The talking stopped immediately. Footsteps approached. The door opened just enough for her to peek through. "Howard." Her voice was tight. "What are you doing up? I heard you talking. Are you okay?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just a client in a different time zone. Go back to bed. I'll be down soon." I went back to bed. But I didn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her move around above me. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt like a stranger in my own house. That wasn't the only time. Over the years, the sounds became routine. The late-night calls. The pacing. Sometimes I'd hear what sounded like crying, but when I asked, she'd brush it off. "Just stress," she'd say. "Big project. You know how it is." I didn't know. But I pretended I did. The office door became more than just a locked room. It became a symbol of everything she wouldn't share. Every time I walked past it, I felt the distance between us grow. But I didn't know how to close it. I didn't know how to ask the right questions without sounding paranoid. So I stayed quiet. I gave her space. And the space became a chasm. 5 years into our marriage, Clarissa installed the digital lock. Before that, it was just a regular key lock. Simple. But one weekend, she had a security company come install a new system. Keypad entry. Auto-locking. She programmed the code herself and never told me what it was. "Why do you need that?" I asked, watching the installer work. She didn't look at me. "I handle sensitive client information. This is safer." "Safer from what?" "Identity theft. Hacking. You know how paranoid clients get." I nodded like that made sense. But it didn't. We lived in a small town. Crime was low. Who was going to break into our house and steal design files? But I didn't push. Because pushing felt like accusing. And I didn't want to be that husband. So the lock stayed. And every night, I'd hear that beep as she sealed herself away from me. The envelopes started showing up around year 10. Plain white. No return address. She'd grab them from the mailbox before I got home, but sometimes I'd beat her to it. Once, I held one up. "What's this?" She snatched it from my hand. "Just paperwork. Client contract." "Why no return address?" "Confidentiality. Some clients are paranoid about mail." She disappeared into the office before I could ask more. I found one once, stuffed in the trash. The envelope was empty, but there was a faint return address stamped on the back. Chicago. No name. Just a zip code. I didn't think much of it at the time. Clarissa had clients all over the country. But now, sitting in her office, reading about Julian Reed, the son who lived in Chicago, it all made sense. She'd been getting letters from him. Or sending them to him. And I'd never known. The trips were the hardest to ignore. She'd leave for a weekend, sometimes longer, always with the same excuse. Client meeting. Big contract. I'll be back soon. She'd kiss me goodbye, grab her suitcase, and disappear. When she came back, she'd be tired. Quiet. Like the trip had drained something out of her. I'd ask how it went. She'd say fine. I'd ask if she landed the contract. She'd nod. That was it. No details. No stories. Just fine. Looking back, I realized those trips weren't for clients. They were for him. Julian. She was visiting her son while pretending to work. And I never knew. One night, about 15 years in, I couldn't take it anymore. The distance. The silence. The locked door. I needed to know what was pulling her away from me. I stood outside her office after she'd gone to bed. The light was off, but I tried the door anyway. Locked. I pressed my ear against it, listening. Nothing. I went downstairs, grabbed a screwdriver, and came back. I stood there, staring at the lock, debating. My father's voice echoed in my head. If you have to look through someone's things, you've already lost them. But hadn't I already lost her? I pressed the screwdriver against the lock. My hand shook. One push, and I could open it. One push, and I'd know. But I couldn't do it. I put the screwdriver down, went back to bed, and hated myself for being too weak to find the truth. I wish I had opened it that night. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe she would have told me everything. Maybe we could have faced it together. But I didn't. And she didn't. And the door stayed locked. The money was another thing I couldn't ignore. Every few months, large deposits would appear in our joint account. 5,000. 10,000. Sometimes more. I'd ask Clarissa about them. Where's this coming from? Client advance, she'd say without looking up from her laptop. Big project. Which client? Confidential. You know how it is. I didn't know, but I stopped asking. Now, looking at her bank statements, I understood. The deposits weren't from clients. They were transfers from a separate account she kept hidden. An account funded by her business, used to pay for Julian's life. She was moving money around to make it look normal. To keep me from asking questions. To keep the secret safe. And it worked. For 32 years, it worked. There was one night I'll never forget. About 3 years before she died. I woke up to the sound of sobbing. Loud, broken sobs coming from above me. I got up, went to the office, and knocked. Clarissa. The sobbing stopped. Silence. Clarissa, open the door. Please. More silence. Then footsteps. The door opened just a crack. Her face was red, swollen. Tears streaked her cheeks. What's wrong? I reached for her, but she pulled back. Nothing. I'm fine. You're not fine. Talk to me. She shook her head. I can't. Please, Howard. Just let me be. Let you be. You're crying in the middle of the night. What's going on? Nothing you can fix. She closed the door. The lock beeped. I stood there, helpless. I wanted to break the door down. I wanted to demand she tell me the truth. But I didn't. I went back to bed and lay there, listening to her cry, feeling like a failure. I should have pushed harder. I should have made her talk. But I was too scared of what I'd find. Now I know what she was crying about. Julian. Her son. The secret that was eating her alive. And I could have helped. If only she'd trusted me enough to tell me. But she didn't. And the door stayed locked. And the silence killed us both. That night, I swore I heard another voice inside. But when I pressed my ear to the door, silence. The coffee stain is still there. 3 months after Clarissa died, I still haven't cleaned it. That brown mark on the white tile where her cup shattered. I walk past it every morning, and every morning it reminds me of the moment everything ended. It was a Tuesday, early May. The kind of morning that feels perfect, birds singing, sun coming through the kitchen window, the smell of lilac drifting in from the garden. Clarissa was humming. I remember that. Some tune I didn't recognize. She poured her coffee, added cream, stirred it slowly. I was reading the paper at the table, half listening to the news on the radio. Everything was normal, routine, safe. Then she stopped humming. I looked up. She was standing by the counter, perfectly still, one hand pressed against her temple. The spoon was still in her other hand, frozen mid-stir. Clarissa. She didn't answer. Her face went pale. Her eyes widened like she'd seen something terrible. Then the cup fell. It hit the tile and exploded. Coffee sprayed everywhere. She stumbled back, both hands on her head now, and the sound she made, I'll never forget that sound. Not a scream. More like a gasp. Like all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Howard. She collapsed. Her body hit the floor hard. I was out of my chair before I could think, dropping to my knees beside her. Clarissa. Clarissa, look at me. Her eyes were open but unfocused. Her mouth moved, trying to form words that wouldn't come. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, kept talking to her even though I knew she couldn't hear me. Stay with me, please. The ambulance is coming. Just stay with me. But she was already gone. I could see it in her eyes. That light, the thing that made her Clarissa, it was fading. By the time the paramedics burst through the door, she wasn't breathing. They worked on her. Chest compressions. Oxygen. Needles and equipment and voices shouting medical terms I didn't understand. I stood in the corner, watching, feeling like I was underwater. They loaded her into the ambulance. I rode with her, holding her hand, begging her to wake up. But she didn't. She never did. The doctor at the hospital said it was a brain aneurysm. Sudden. Unpredictable. Nothing anyone could have done. She didn't suffer, he said, like that was supposed to help. But I knew better. She'd been suffering for years. Just not in the way he meant. The funeral was 4 days later. I don't remember much of it. People came. They cried. They told me how wonderful Clarissa was, how much they'd miss her. Her sister Margot flew in from Seattle and clung to me like I was the only thing keeping her upright. I can't believe she's gone, Margot kept saying. It doesn't feel real. It didn't feel real to me either. I kept expecting Clarissa to walk through the door, laugh, and say it was all a mistake. But she didn't. She was gone. And the house felt wrong without her. People brought casseroles. So many casseroles. They stacked up in the fridge until there was no room for anything else. Neighbors stopped by with flowers, condolences, offers to help with anything I needed. But what I needed was answers. And nobody could give me those. After the funeral, Margot stayed for a week. She helped clean out Clarissa's closet, sorted through her jewelry, boxed up her clothes for donation. It was practical, necessary, but it felt wrong, erasing her like that. You don't have to do this now, I told Margot. We can wait. She shook her head. It's better to get it done. Trust me, the longer you wait, the harder it gets. So we kept going, box after box, until Margot opened Clarissa's dresser and found something that stopped her cold. Howard, what's this? She was holding a small metal box, black, about the size of a jewelry case. I'd never seen it before. I don't know. Open it. She did. Inside was a single silver key and a folded piece of paper. Margot unfolded the paper, read it, and her face went pale. She handed it to me without a word. The note was in Clarissa's handwriting. Howard, if you're reading this, I'm gone. This key opens my office. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you while I was alive. Please don't hate me for what you find. I stared at the key in Margot's hand. My throat felt tight. "You should open it," Margot said quietly. "I don't know if I want to." "You need to." She was right. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not yet. I took the key, slipped it into my pocket, and told Margot I'd deal with it later. But later turned into days. Then a week. Then 2. The key sat on my nightstand, and every night I'd stare at it, too afraid to use it. What if what I found was worse than not knowing? The house felt empty without her. Not just physically, though that was part of it, but emotionally. Like all the warmth had been sucked out. I'd walk through rooms and feel nothing but cold. I stopped going to work. Took bereavement leave. Spent my days sitting on the porch swing, staring at nothing. Neighbors would wave. I'd wave back. But I didn't talk to anyone. What was there to say? At night, I'd lie in bed and listen to the silence. No footsteps above me. No beeping lock. No murmur of her voice. Just nothing. And that nothing was unbearable. 3 weeks after the funeral, I finally worked up the courage. It was late. Past midnight. I'd been sitting on the porch, drinking bourbon I didn't usually drink, trying to numb the ache in my chest. I went inside. Climbed the stairs. Walked to the office door. Pulled the key from my pocket. My hand was shaking so badly, I almost couldn't get it in the lock. But I did. I heard the click. Felt the door give way. I stood there for a long time, staring into the darkness, knowing that once I stepped inside, everything would change. Then I stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Her perfume. Faint but unmistakable. Like she'd just been there. I flipped the light switch, and the room came into view. It was organized. Immaculate. A mahogany desk in the center. 2 computers. Filing cabinets. A safe in the corner. But what caught my eye were the walls. Photographs. Dozens of them. Framed and arranged with precision. Children of all ages staring back at me. And beneath each photo, names, dates, payment records. I walked closer, heart pounding. These weren't just random kids. Each frame had a label. Julian Reed, age 5, elementary tuition paid. Julian Reed, age 12, summer camp registration. Julian Reed. Over and over. Julian Reed. My hands went cold. I turned to the desk, saw letters scattered across the surface. Handwritten. Her elegant script. I picked one up. Read the first line. My sweet Julian, I wish I could be there to watch you grow, but I can't. Please understand, it's not because I don't love you. My breath caught. I grabbed another letter. Then another. They were all to him. Julian. Her son. The son I never knew existed. I opened the safe next. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely work the combination Margot had found written in Clarissa's planner. Inside were documents. Legal papers. Bank statements. And a birth certificate. Julian Reed. Born May 18, 1998. Mother, Clarissa Kane. Father, unknown. I sat down hard in her chair, staring at the certificate. 27 years ago. That was the California trip. The one where she came back different. She'd been pregnant. Had a baby. And never told me. For the first time in my life, I was afraid of the truth. The photographs were organized by year. I stood in front of that wall, tracing my fingers over the frames, trying to understand. Each photo showed a different stage of Julian's life. Toddler, child, teenager, young man. And beneath each one, Clarissa had written notes in her precise handwriting. First day of kindergarten. He smiled for the camera. Middle school graduation. He wants to be an architect. College acceptance letter. I'm so proud. She'd watched him grow up. From a distance. Through photographs and letters and secret visits disguised as business trips. And I'd never known. I pulled one frame off the wall. Julian at age 8, standing in front of a school building, backpack slung over his shoulder. He had her eyes. Dark and serious. Her mouth. Even the way he stood reminded me of her. Straight-backed, confident. Seeing his face made it real. He wasn't just a name on a birth certificate. He was a person. Her son. A kid who'd grown up without his mother because she was too afraid to tell the truth. I set the frame down and moved to the desk. Letters covered the surface, organized by date. I picked up the oldest one, dated June 1998. My sweet boy, I held you for 3 hours before they took you away. I memorized your face. Your fingers. The way you cried. I'm so sorry I can't keep you. But I promise I'll take care of you. Always. My throat tightened. I grabbed another letter, this one from 2005. Julian, your foster mother says you're doing well in school. I'm glad. I wish I could be there to help with homework, to tuck you in at night. But I can't. Please know that I think about you every single day. Another from 2012. You're 14 now. Almost a man. I saw you last week. Did you notice the woman watching you at the coffee shop? That was me. I wanted to say something. To hug you. But I couldn't. Howard doesn't know about you. If he did, I'd lose everything. I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking. She'd been watching him. Visiting him. Loving him from the shadows while lying to me every single day. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But all I could do was sit there, staring at the evidence of a life she'd lived without me. The filing cabinets were next. I pulled open the first drawer, expecting more letters. Instead, I found financial records. Bank statements from an account I'd never seen. Transfers. Deposits. Withdrawals. All labeled with Julian's name. She'd been sending him money for years. Thousands of dollars. Tuition payments to private schools. College funds. Living expenses. It was all there, documented in her careful handwriting. I did the math in my head. Over 27 years, she'd sent him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe more. Money that came from her business. Money I thought was for us, for our future, for the retirement we'd planned. But it wasn't. It was for him. I opened the second drawer. More records. Medical bills from when he was a child. Report cards. Copies of his school essays. Birthday cards she'd bought but never sent. She'd kept everything. Every piece of his life she could get her hands on. It was like a shrine. A secret museum dedicated to the son she couldn't claim. I found a folder marked foster care and opened it. Inside were agreements, contracts, payment schedules. Clarissa had arranged for Julian to be placed with a family in Chicago. She'd paid them monthly to raise him. She'd made sure he had everything he needed. Good schools, music lessons, summer camps. Everything except a mother. There was a photograph paper clipped to one of the contracts. A couple in their 50s, smiling at the camera. Behind them, a young Julian, maybe 5 years old, standing between them with an uncertain expression on his face. On the back, Clarissa had written, "The Harrisons. Good people. They'll love him when I can't." My chest ached. She'd done this alone. Carried this weight for decades without telling anyone. And why? Because she was afraid I'd leave her. Maybe I would have. I don't know. But she never gave me the chance to decide. I moved to the computers next. Both were password protected, but Margot had found a list of passwords in Clarissa's planner. I tried the first one. It worked. The desktop was organized just like everything else in this room. Precise, methodical. Folders labeled by year. I clicked on the most recent one. Inside were emails. Hundreds of them. All between Clarissa and someone named JR78. Julian Reed. Born 1978. The year didn't match, but the initials did. I opened the first email, dated 3 months before she died. Mom, I got the promotion. Lead architect on the Riverside project. I wish I could call you that, Mom. But I understand why I can't. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I know it hasn't been easy. Her response, I'm so proud of you. I wish I could shout it from the rooftops. But Howard still doesn't know. And I can't tell him. Not now. Not after all these years. He'd never forgive me. I scrolled through more emails. Years of correspondence. Julian updating her on his life. Her responding with pride and guilt. Always guilt. One email from 5 years ago stopped me cold. Mom, I'm getting married. Her name is Sophie. I want you to be there. Please. I know it's risky, but this is my wedding. I need you there. Clarissa's response. I can't. I'm so sorry. If I come, someone might ask questions. Howard might find out. I can't risk that. But I'll send a gift. And I'll think about you all day. I promise. She'd missed her own son's wedding. Because of me. Because she was afraid of what I'd think. I felt sick. The last email was dated 2 weeks before she died. Mom, I know this is hard. But I think it's time you told him. He deserves to know. And you deserve to stop hiding. This secret is killing you. I can hear it in your voice every time we talk. Her response. You're right. But I'm scared. What if he hates me? What if he leaves? I can't lose him. He's all I have left of the life I built. That was it. The last email. 2 weeks later, she collapsed in the kitchen and died. And I never got to hear the truth from her own mouth. I closed the computer and sat there in the dark, surrounded by evidence of a life I knew nothing about. My wife had a son. She'd loved him, provided for him, watched him grow from a distance. And she'd done it all while pretending to love me. But she did love me. I could see that now. In the letters. In the emails. She loved both of us. She just didn't know how to love us together. So she split herself in half. 1 half for me. 1 half for Julian. And this office was where the two halves met every night, in secret, behind a locked door. The safe had more inside. I pulled out a stack of photographs, ones that weren't framed. Julian as a baby. A toddler taking his first steps. A teenager in a cap and gown. An adult standing in front of a building with blueprints in his hand. She'd been there. For all of it. Watching from the shadows. Taking pictures she could never show anyone. There was one photograph that broke me. Clarissa standing next to Julian at what looked like his college graduation. They weren't touching. They were standing 3 feet apart, like strangers. But their faces told the truth. They had the same eyes. The same smile. Someone else must have taken the photo. Someone who knew. Maybe the Harrisons. Maybe a friend of Julian's. I don't know. But seeing them together, seeing the family she'd built without me, it hurt more than anything else. At the bottom of the safe was an envelope with my name on it. Not the letter Mr. Darnell had given me. A different one. Sealed with red wax. My hands shook as I broke the seal and pulled out the letter inside. Howard, if you're reading this, you found everything. I'm sorry. I'm so So sorry. I never meant to hurt you. But I was a coward. I should have told you about Julian the day we met. But I was afraid you'd see me differently. That you'd think I was damaged. Unworthy. So I hid him. And I kept hiding him. And the longer I hid him, the harder it became to tell the truth. I love you. I always have. But I also love my son. And I didn't know how to love you both without destroying everything. So I chose silence. I chose secrecy. And I chose to carry this weight alone. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to understand. But I hope, someday, you can see that I did this out of love. Not betrayal. Love. Please don't hate Julian for this. He's innocent. He didn't ask to be born into my mess. And he deserves better than a mother who could only love him from behind a locked door. I'm sorry I never let you in. I'm sorry I built walls between us. And I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I love you. Both of you. And I always will. Clarissa. I folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope, and set it on the desk. Then I sat there in her chair, surrounded by her secrets, and cried for the first time since she died. Not because she'd lied, but because she'd been so afraid of losing me that she'd lost herself instead. Then I opened the safe one more time and found something that made my heart stop cold. There was a second birth certificate at the bottom of the safe. I almost missed it. It was tucked behind a stack of legal documents, folded in half, yellowed with age. But when I unfolded it, the room started spinning. Emma Kane. Born April 3, 2003. Mother, Clarissa Kane. Father, unknown. Emma. My hands went numb. I read the certificate again, hoping I'd misread it. But the words didn't change. Emma Kane. Another child. Another secret. Julian wasn't the only one. I dropped the certificate like it was on fire. My breath came in short gasps. How many children did she have that I didn't know about? How many lives had she lived behind that locked door? I tore through the safe, pulling out everything. More documents. More photographs. And there she was, Emma. A little girl with Clarissa's smile. Blonde hair instead of dark. Different from Julian, but unmistakably hers. The photographs were fewer. Only a handful. Emma as a newborn. A toddler. A child of maybe 5. Then nothing. No more pictures after that. I found a folder marked Emma, Adoption Records. Inside were papers from an adoption agency in North Carolina. Final placement documents dated 2008. Emma had been 5 years old when Clarissa gave her up completely. Not like Julian. Not kept at a distance with monthly payments and secret visits. Given away. Permanently. There was a letter paper clipped to the adoption papers. Clarissa's handwriting, but messier than usual. Like she'd been crying while she wrote it. I can't do this again. I thought I could manage too. I thought I could split myself into thirds. One for Howard, one for Julian, one for Emma. But I can't. I'm drowning. I'm failing everyone. Emma deserves a real mother. Not someone who can only love her in secret. The Hutchinsons are good people. They'll give her what I can't. This is the right choice. It has to be. My chest felt tight. She'd had another child and given her away because she couldn't handle the weight of 2 secrets. Because loving Julian from a distance was already breaking her. And I'd been right there. In the same house. Sleeping in the same bed. Never knowing she was carrying this burden. The last photograph of Emma showed her standing between 2 people, a man and woman in their 40s. The Hutchinsons, I assumed. Emma was smiling, holding a stuffed rabbit. She looked happy. On the back, Clarissa had written, "Goodbye, my sweet girl." I hope someday you'll understand. I sat on the floor, surrounded by papers and photographs, trying to process it. 2 children. 2 lives she'd created and hidden. Julian she kept at arm's length. Emma she let go entirely. And me. I was the husband who knew nothing. The man she loved enough to lie to for 32 years. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to rage at her for the deception. But all I felt was hollow. Empty. Like someone had scooped out my insides and left nothing but air. The phone call came the next morning. I was still in the office, hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. Just sat there in the dark, staring at the photographs on the wall. Mr. Kane? This is Gerald Darnell, Clarissa's attorney. We need to meet. There are some matters regarding her estate that require your immediate attention. His voice was formal, careful, like he was walking on glass. What kind of matters? I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you come to my office this afternoon? I agreed. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. Mr. Darnell's office was in downtown Crestwood, above a coffee shop. He was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a nervous habit of adjusting his tie. When I walked in, he stood quickly, offered his hand, then gestured to a chair. Mr. Kane, thank you for coming. I know this is a difficult time. I sat. Didn't say anything. He cleared his throat. Your wife left very specific instructions regarding her estate. She divided her assets between you and 2 other individuals. 2. He nodded. Julian Reed and Emma Hutchinson. So he knew. Of course he knew. Clarissa had trusted him with her secrets in a way she'd never trusted me. How long have you known? I asked. He looked uncomfortable. About Julian. Since he was born. Clarissa came to me when she was pregnant. Needed help setting up the trust fund. About Emma. Since the adoption. I handled the paperwork. And you never thought to tell me? Attorney-client privilege, Mr. Kane. She specifically instructed me not to disclose any information to you. Ever. I laughed. It came out bitter. Even after she died? Especially after she died. These instructions were ironclad. He pulled out a folder. However, she did leave something for you. He handed me an envelope. Thicker than the one I'd found in the safe. My name written in her handwriting on the front. I'll give you privacy, Mr. Darnell said, standing. Take your time. He left the room. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside was a letter. 5 pages. Single-spaced. Her handwriting smaller than usual, like she was trying to fit as much as possible onto the page. Howard, I don't know where to begin. I've started this letter 100 times and thrown it away just as many. But if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you deserve to know everything. Julian was born in 1998. I was 26. His father was a man I dated in college, before I met you. He left when I told him I was pregnant. Didn't want the responsibility. So I handled it alone. I gave birth in California. Held him for 3 hours. Then I made the hardest decision of my life. I couldn't keep him. Not if I wanted any kind of future. Not if I wanted to finish school, start a career, have a normal life. But I couldn't abandon him either. So I arranged for foster care. Found a good family. Made sure he'd be taken care of. And I sent money every month. Watched him grow from a distance. Then I met you. And for the first time since Julian was born, I felt happy. You made me feel normal. Like I wasn't broken. Like I could have the life I'd always wanted. But I was terrified. Terrified you'd find out about Julian and leave. Terrified you'd think I was damaged goods. So I didn't tell you. And the longer I waited, the harder it became. We got married, built a life together. And I thought I could manage both, being your wife and being Julian's mother from afar. I thought I could compartmentalize. Then I got pregnant again. With Emma. I don't know how it happened. We were careful. But life doesn't always care about careful. And suddenly, I was facing the same choice all over again. I couldn't tell you. You would have wanted to keep her, raise her, be a father. And I couldn't let that happen. Because if we raised Emma, you'd eventually find out about Julian. And I'd lose everything. So I hid the pregnancy. Told you I was gaining weight from stress. Wore loose clothes. Worked from home more. And when the time came, I went to North Carolina and gave birth alone. I tried to keep Emma the way I kept Julian. But it was too much. 2 children. 2 secrets. 2 lives I was funding, watching, loving from a distance. I was drowning. So I made another choice. I gave Emma up for adoption. Completely. Permanently. Let her have a real family. A real mother. Someone who could love her openly. It broke me, giving her away. But I thought it was the right thing to do. I've lived with this guilt for 25 years. Every night in that office, I'd look at their photographs and wonder what kind of monster I was. What kind of mother gives away her children? What kind of wife lies to her husband for decades? But I did it because I loved you. I loved Julian. I loved Emma. And I didn't know how to love all of you at the same time without destroying myself. I'm sorry, Howard. I'm so sorry. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But please don't hate Julian and Emma for this. They're innocent. They didn't choose to be born into my mess. If you're reading this, Mr. Darnell has already told you about the will. I've divided everything equally between the 3 of you. It's not enough. Nothing could ever be enough. But it's all I have to give. I love you. I've always loved you. Even when I was lying. Even when I was hiding. You were the one good thing I managed to hold on to. I'm sorry I never let you in. Clarissa. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. Mr. Darnell came back in. Are you all right? No. He sat down. I understand this is a lot to process. If you need time. What exactly did she leave them? Julian receives 1/3 of her business assets. Emma receives 1/3. You receive the remaining third, plus the house and all personal property. Does Emma know about the inheritance? Yes. About Clarissa being her birth mother? No. The adoption was closed. Emma's parents never told her she was adopted. So she thinks some random woman left her money. Essentially, yes. And Julian? Julian knows everything. He's known since he was 18. Clarissa told him then. Of course she did. She told Julian. She told Emma's adoptive parents. She told her lawyer. She told everyone except me. I need their contact information, I said. Mr. Darnell hesitated. Mr. Kane, I'm not sure that's wise. I need to meet them. Please. He sighed. Pulled out a sheet of paper. Wrote down 2 addresses. 1 in Chicago. 1 in Raleigh. Julian's expecting you to reach out. Clarissa told him you might. Emma, that's more complicated. If you contact her, you'll have to explain who you are. And potentially reveal information her parents chose not to share. I'll figure it out. I took the paper and left. For the first time since Clarissa died, I knew what I had to do. I didn't call Julian right away. For 3 days, I sat in that office, staring at his phone number, trying to find the courage. What do you say to your dead wife's secret son? How do you introduce yourself to a man who's known about you his whole life while you knew nothing about him? I picked up the phone a dozen times. Put it down a dozen more. My hands shook every time I looked at those digits written in Mr. Darnell's neat handwriting. Finally, on the fourth day, I dialed. My heart hammered so hard I thought I might pass out. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Hello. His voice was deep, steady, nothing like I expected. Is this Julian Reed? Silence. Then, yes. Who's this? My name is Howard Kane. I was married to. I know who you are. More silence. I didn't know what to say next. Everything I'd rehearsed vanished from my head. She told me you might call, Julian said finally. His voice was careful, guarded. After she died, she said if you found out, you'd probably want to talk. She was right. I'm sorry. His voice cracked slightly. For what it's worth, I never wanted this. I told her for years she should tell you. But she was terrified. Terrified of what? Of losing you. She said you were the only good thing she'd ever kept. He paused. I think she loved you more than she loved me. And I think that killed her. The words hit me like a fist. I sat down hard in Clarissa's chair. I don't know what to say, I admitted. Me neither. This is weird for both of us. Can we meet? I need to see you. Face to face. Another pause. Longer this time. Yeah. Okay. When? Soon. This week if you can. I can do Thursday. There's a coffee shop near my office. I'll text you the address. Okay. Mr. Kane. Yeah. I'm not expecting anything from you. I just want you to know that. I'm not looking for a father. I want to understand her better. And I think you do too. I do. Then we'll talk Thursday. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling like I'd just jumped off a cliff and was waiting to hit the ground. The train to Chicago took 6 hours. I spent the entire ride staring out the window, watching Virginia turn into Maryland, turn into Pennsylvania, turn into Ohio. The landscape changed, but my thoughts stayed the same. What would he look like in person? Would I see Clarissa in his face? Would he hate me for not knowing? Would I hate him for existing? I didn't know, and that terrified me. The coffee shop was small, tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner in downtown Chicago. I got there 15 minutes early, ordered a black coffee I didn't drink, and sat in a corner booth, watching the door. At exactly 2 o'clock, he walked in. I knew it was him immediately. He had Clarissa's eyes, her walk, that same quiet confidence she'd carried like armor. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark hair and sharp features. He wore a suit, no tie, and carried a leather bag over his shoulder. He saw me and stopped. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he walked over and sat down across from me. Mr. Kane. Howard. Please. Howard. He set his bag down, folded his hands on the table. Thanks for coming all this way. I needed to. Up close, the resemblance was even stronger. He had her mouth, her nose. The way his eyebrows pulled together when he was thinking, that was all Clarissa. You look like her, I said. He nodded. I know. People used to comment on it when she'd visit. She'd always say I looked like her brother. She didn't have a brother, but nobody questioned it. How often did she visit? Maybe twice a year. Sometimes more. She'd fly in, spend a day with me, then leave. We'd get coffee, walk around the city, talk. Then she'd go back to Virginia, and I wouldn't see her for months. That must have been hard. It was. His jaw tightened. But I understood. She had a life with you. A real life. I was just the secret she couldn't let go of. The words stung, but they were true. She left you money, I said. A third of her business. I know. Mr. Darnell called. I told him I don't want it. I blinked. What? I don't want her money. I never did. I have my own career. I'm doing fine. The money feels like guilt. Like she's trying to pay me off for all the years she couldn't be my mom. She was trying to take care of you. I know. But I don't need her money. I need. He stopped. Swallowed hard. I needed her. And now she's gone. His eyes were red. He wasn't crying, but he was close. And suddenly I realized this wasn't just about me. Julian had lost her too. Maybe more than I had, because he'd never really had her to begin with. She loved you, I said quietly. I read the letters. The emails. She was so proud of you. She told me that. Every time we talked. But she never came to anything important. Not my graduation. Not my wedding. She always had an excuse. Always had a reason she couldn't be there. He looked at me. Because of you. Because of me? She said if she came to those events, you might find out. Someone might see her. Might ask questions. So she stayed away. And I pretended it didn't hurt. The guilt settled over me like a weight. All those years, I was the reason he grew up without a mother. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because Clarissa was too afraid to tell me the truth. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For not knowing. For not giving her a reason to trust me. For being the thing that kept her from you. He shook his head. That's not on you. That's on her. She made the choice to lie. You didn't force her to. We sat in silence for a while. The coffee shop buzzed around us. Conversations, laughter, the hiss of the espresso machine. Normal sounds from a normal world that felt a million miles away. Can I ask you something? Julian said finally. Yeah. Did you love her? The question caught me off guard. Of course I did. Even now. After everything you found out. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Did I still love Clarissa? After the lies, the secrets, the locked door that kept me out for 32 years? Yeah, I said. I do. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I still love her. He nodded slowly. Good. Because she loved you. Maybe too much. And I think that's why she could never tell you about me. She was too afraid of losing you. She didn't have to be. Didn't she? He leaned forward. Be honest. If she'd told you on your wedding day that she had a son, would you have stayed? I opened my mouth. Closed it. The truth was, I didn't know. 27 years ago, I was young. Idealistic. I believed in honesty and trust and clean slates. Finding out my fiancé had a secret child might have broken me. I want to say yes, I admitted. But I don't know. She knew. That's why she stayed quiet. Another silence. Then Julian reached into his bag and pulled out an envelope. She gave this to me 2 years ago. Said if she died before she told you the truth, I should give it to you. He slid it across the table. I think it's time. I stared at the envelope. My name was written on the front in her handwriting. Different from the other letters. Messier. Like she'd written it in a hurry or while crying. What is it? I don't know. She told me not to read it. It's for you. I picked it up. It felt heavy. Important. Thank you. He stood. I should get back to work. But Howard. Yeah. She wasn't perfect. She made mistakes. But she tried. In her own messed up way, she tried to love all of us. And I think that counts for something. He left before I could respond. I sat there for another hour, holding the envelope, afraid to open it. Inside that envelope lay the one truth she'd never dared to tell me while alive. I didn't open the envelope for 2 days. It sat on my nightstand, taunting me. Every time I looked at it, my stomach twisted. What else could she possibly have to say? What other secrets could be hiding in her words? But on Saturday morning, I finally worked up the courage. I made coffee, sat on the porch swing where I used to wait for her, and broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. And a photograph. The photograph showed Clarissa, maybe 25 years old, holding a newborn. Julian. She was sitting in a hospital bed, hair messy, eyes exhausted but full of love. She was looking down at him like he was the most precious thing in the world. On the back, she'd written, "The only photograph I have of us together. Taken by a nurse who didn't ask questions. May 18th, 1998. The day I became a mother. The day I learned what real fear feels like." I set the photo down and read the letter. "Howard, Julian is giving you this because I'm gone. And because I'm a coward who couldn't say these things while I was alive. I need you to understand something. I didn't keep Julian a secret because I didn't love you. I kept him a secret because I loved you too much. When I met you, I was drowning. I had a 1-year-old son I couldn't keep, a degree I hadn't finished, and a future that looked like nothing but struggle and shame. Then you walked into my life, and suddenly I could breathe again. You made me feel normal, clean. Like my past didn't define me. Like I could be more than just a girl who got pregnant and gave her baby away. But I knew if I told you about Julian, that feeling would disappear. You'd look at me differently. You'd see the mess I was instead of the woman I was trying to become. So I lied. And I kept lying. And eventually, the lie became my life. The office wasn't about keeping you out. It was about keeping me together. Every night, I'd go in there and be his mother for a few hours. I'd write him letters I'd never send. Look at his photos. Send money. Make sure he was okay. Then I'd come to bed beside you and pretend I was just your wife. Nothing more. Nothing complicated. But I was always both. His mother and your wife. And I could never figure out how to be both at the same time. I want you to know something else. Emma. You found her birth certificate. You know about her. And you probably think I'm a monster for giving her away completely. Maybe I am. But I gave her away because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't split myself into 3 pieces. I was failing everyone. You, Julian, Emma, myself. So I made a choice. I let her go so she could have what I couldn't give her. A real family. A mother who could love her without hiding. It broke me. But I thought it was the right thing. I'm telling you all this not to make excuses. I can't justify what I did. But I want you to understand that every choice I made, every lie I told, came from a place of fear and love. I was afraid of losing you. And I loved my children. And I didn't know how to hold both of those truths at the same time. I failed. I know that now. I failed you. I failed Julian. I failed Emma. And I failed myself. But I need you to know this. Loving you wasn't the mistake. Lying to you was. If I could go back and do it all over, I'd tell you the truth from the beginning. I'd risk losing you for the chance to love you honestly. But I can't go back. And now I'm gone. And you're left with all the pieces I couldn't put together. I'm sorry, Howard. For everything. Please don't spend the rest of your life hating me. I've spent 32 years hating myself. That's enough. Find Julian. Get to know him. He's a good man. Better than I deserved. And if you ever find Emma, tell her I'm sorry I couldn't be her mother. But tell her I loved her. Even when I let her go. All my love, Clarissa. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Then I sat on that porch swing and cried. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood. She'd carried this weight alone for 3 decades, and it had crushed her. The next morning, I called Mr. Darnell. I need Emma's address, I said. Mr. Kane, I really don't think. I need to see her. I need to know she's okay. He sighed. She lives in Raleigh. But Howard, her parents never told her she was adopted. If you contact her, you could destroy her entire sense of identity. I know. But she deserves to know where she came from. Even if it hurts. That's not your decision to make. It's not yours either. Silence. Then, I'll email you the address. But please, be careful. Don't do more damage than Clarissa already did. The address came through an hour later. Emma Hutchinson, 2447 Maple Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. I booked a flight for the next day. The Hutchinson house was small, neat, white with blue shutters and a garden full of roses. A tire swing hung from a tree in the front yard, even though Emma was 22 now. Probably left over from her childhood. I sat in my rental car across the street for 20 minutes, trying to find the courage to knock on that door. What would I say? Hi, I'm your dead birth mother's husband. She never told you about me, but she left you money. Oh, and by the way, you were adopted. There was no good way to do this. Finally, I got out of the car and walked to the front door. Rang the bell. A woman in her 50s answered. Brown hair. Kind eyes. Mrs. Hutchinson, I assumed. Can I help you? My name is Howard Kane. I'm looking for Emma Hutchinson. Is she here? Her expression changed. Guarded. Who are you? I hesitated. I'm the executor of an estate. Emma was named as a beneficiary. I need to speak with her about some inheritance matters. It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Mrs. Hutchinson frowned. Emma didn't mention anything about an inheritance. She wouldn't have known. The deceased passed recently. Can I speak with her? She looked skeptical but stepped aside. Wait here. A few minutes later, a young woman came down the stairs. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Nothing like Clarissa physically, but something about the way she moved reminded me of her. I'm Emma, she said. My mom said you're here about an inheritance. Can we talk? Privately. She glanced at her mother, then nodded. We can sit on the porch. We sat on wicker chairs overlooking the garden. Emma looked curious but not concerned. She had no idea what I was about to tell her. Emma, I need to be honest with you. This isn't just about inheritance. It's about your birth mother. Her expression shifted. Confused. My birth mother? You were adopted. Your parents never told you. She stood up fast. What? No. That's not. My parents would have told me. They kept it from you. I don't know why. But your birth mother was a woman named Clarissa Kane. She gave you up for adoption when you were 5 years old. And she recently passed away. She left you part of her estate. Emma's face went pale. She sat back down hard. You're lying. I'm not. I have the documents. The birth certificate. The adoption papers. Everything. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Because you deserve to know the truth, even if it hurts. Tears filled her eyes. Who was she? Why did she give me away? She was my wife. And she gave you away because she thought it was the right thing to do. She couldn't give you the life you deserved. So she gave me to strangers? She gave you to people who loved you, who could be the parents she couldn't be. Emma stood again. I need you to leave. Now. Emma. I said leave. I don't want your money. I don't want to know about her. Just go. She ran inside. The door slammed. I sat there for a minute, feeling like I'd just shattered something beautiful. Then I got up and walked back to my car. Mrs. Hutchinson was standing by the mailbox. She'd heard everything. You had no right, she said quietly, anger barely contained in her voice. She deserved to know. She was happy. We gave her a good life. And you just destroyed it. Clarissa destroyed it. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She shook her head. Get out of here. And don't come back. I drove away, watching the house disappear in my rearview mirror, wondering if I'd done the right thing. Then I remembered what Julian said. That Clarissa had tried, in her own messed up way, to love all of us. But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes, when you open a locked door, the truth inside doesn't set you free. It just shows you how much damage was done while it was closed. The phone call came 3 days after I left Raleigh. I was back home, sitting in Clarissa's office, still surrounded by her secrets. I'd been living in that room since she died, sleeping in her chair, reading her letters over and over like they might reveal some answer I'd missed. The number was unfamiliar. North Carolina area code. Hello, Mr. Kane. A woman's voice. Quiet. Uncertain. Yes. This is Emma. Emma Hutchinson. I sat up straight. Emma. I didn't think you'd call. I didn't think I would either. She paused. But I've been thinking about what you said. And I need to know more. About her. About why she gave me away. I can tell you what I know. But it's complicated. Everything's complicated now. My whole life is a lie. Your life isn't a lie. Your parents love you. That's real. But they lied to me. For 22 years. They were protecting you. From the truth. From the pain. Well, the pain is here now anyway. Her voice cracked. Can you send me something? A photo of her? I need to see what she looked like. Yeah, I can do that. And Mr. Kane? There's someone else. Your letter said she had a son too. Julian. Do you have his contact information? My breath caught. You want to meet him? He's my brother, right? Half-brother, anyway. If I have family out there, I want to know them. I'll send you his number. But Emma, he's been through a lot too. This hasn't been easy for him either. I know. But maybe we can figure it out together. The three of us. The three of us. Clarissa's secret children and the husband who never knew. We were the family she'd built in pieces, kept in separate boxes, never allowed to touch. But she was gone now. And the boxes were open. I'll send everything tomorrow, I said. Thank you. And Mr. Kane? I'm sorry I yelled at you. You were just trying to do the right thing. I'm still not sure if it was right. But it was honest. She hung up. I sat there, staring at the phone, wondering what Clarissa would think if she could see us now. Her secrets coming together. Her lies unraveling into something that might actually resemble truth. I sent Emma the photograph of Clarissa from her office wall. The one where she's in her 30s, standing in front of her business office, confident and beautiful. before the weight of her secrets started showing in her eyes. I sent her Julian's number 2. And a copy of the letter Clarissa had written about Emma. The one where she explained why she'd given her away. Then I waited. 2 weeks later, my doorbell rang. I opened the door and froze. Julian was standing on my porch. And beside him, looking nervous and determined, was Emma. "Surprise," Julian said. "Hope you don't mind." Emma called me. "We thought we should all meet. Officially." I stepped aside. They came in. We sat in the living room, the three of us, strangers bound together by a dead woman's secrets. Nobody spoke for a minute. The silence was heavy, but not hostile. Finally, Emma broke it. "This is weird." Julian laughed. "Yeah, it really is. I still can't believe she kept us all separate. Like we were different lives she couldn't let touch." "That's exactly what we were," I said. "She compartmentalized. Me in one box, Julian in another, you in a third. And she moved between the boxes every day, never letting them overlap." "But why?" Emma asked. "Why couldn't she just tell the truth?" "Because she was afraid," Julian said quietly. "Afraid of losing everything. Afraid of being judged. Afraid that the people she loved wouldn't love her back if they knew who she really was." I nodded. She built her whole life on silence. And silence became her prison. Emma looked around the room. "Can I see her office? The one you found everything in?" I hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I need to. I need to see the place where she kept us." I led them upstairs. Opened the door. Let them step into the room that had been locked for 32 years. Emma walked straight to the wall of photographs. She found her own pictures, the few that existed, and stared at them. Tears rolled down her face. "She kept these," Emma whispered. "Even after she gave me away, she kept my pictures." Julian stood beside her. He put his hand on her shoulder. "She loved us, in her own broken way." They stood there together, looking at the evidence of a mother they'd never really known. And I stood behind them, the husband who'd lived beside her for 3 decades without knowing she was carrying this weight. "What do we do now?" Emma asked, turning to face me. "I don't know. The lawyer said she left us money. Part of her business." "She did." "I don't want it," Emma said. "It feels like guilt money." "I said the same thing," Julian added. "But maybe that's not what it is. Maybe it's just her way of taking care of us, even after she's gone." "Or maybe it's both," I said. "Guilt and love. They're not mutually exclusive." We went back downstairs. I made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Clarissa died, and talked. Emma told us about growing up in Raleigh. About her parents, who were devastated when she confronted them about the adoption. About how they'd kept it secret because the adoption agency had recommended it, said it would be easier for Emma if she never knew. Julian told us about his childhood in Chicago. About the Harrisons, his foster parents, who'd loved him but always seemed distant. About how Clarissa's visits felt like glimpses of something he couldn't quite reach. And I told them about Clarissa, the woman I'd married. The wife who'd locked her office every night. The person I thought I knew completely but didn't know at all. "Do you hate her?" Emma asked me. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I don't hate her. I think she did the best she could with an impossible situation." "She should have told you," Emma said. "From the beginning. She should have. But she was human. And humans make mistakes. Even ones that last 32 years. Julian pulled out his phone. "There's something I want to show you both." He opened a video file, pressed play. It was Clarissa, sitting in her office, looking directly at the camera. She looked tired, older than I remembered. This must have been recorded recently, maybe weeks before she died. "If you're watching this video," Clarissa said, "then I'm gone. And Howard found everything. And hopefully he found you too as well." Her voice cracked. "Julian, Emma, Howard, I know what I did was wrong. I know I hurt you all. But I need you to understand something. I didn't keep secrets because I didn't love you. I kept secrets because I loved you too much. I was terrified of losing any of you. So I tried to keep you all safe in separate spaces where you couldn't be taken away. But I realize now that love doesn't work that way. You can't love people in boxes. You can't protect them by hiding them. I spent 32 years trying to control everything, trying to manage everyone's emotions, including my own. And all I did was build walls between the people I cared about most. Howard, you deserved a wife who trusted you enough to be honest. Julian and Emma, you deserved a mother who was brave enough to claim you. I wasn't that person. But I hope, somehow, the three of you can be the family I never let you become. Take care of each other. Love each other honestly. And don't make my mistakes. Don't let fear turn love into silence. Don't build walls when you should be building bridges. And don't wait until it's too late to tell the truth." The video ended. The three of us sat there in silence, tears streaming down our faces. Finally, Emma spoke. "She gave this to you." Julian nodded. 2 months before she died. She said if she didn't tell Howard herself, I should make sure he saw it. And that I should find Emma and show her too. "She planned this," I said quietly. "Even in death, she was trying to fix what she broke." "Do you think it's working?" Emma asked. I looked at the two of them. Clarissa's children. Strangers who shared her blood but nothing else. And yet here they were, sitting in my kitchen, trying to make sense of the wreckage. "Yeah," I said. "I think it is." Emma wiped her eyes. "So what now? Do we just pretend to be a family?" "We don't have to pretend," Julian said. "We just have to try." "She would have liked that," I said. "Us trying." Emma managed a small smile. "Then let's try." We spent the rest of the evening talking. About Clarissa. About ourselves. About the future. And slowly, piece by piece, we started to build something she never could. A family based on truth instead of silence. When they left that night, Julian hugged me. So did Emma. And for the first time since Clarissa died, I didn't feel alone in that big empty house. Her secrets had brought us together. And maybe, just maybe, that was what she'd wanted all along. I kept the office exactly as Clarissa left it. The photographs stayed on the walls. The letters remained on the desk. Even the safe, empty now, stayed open as a reminder. This room, her room, became something different after Julian and Emma came into my life. Not a shrine to her secrets anymore, but a reminder of what happens when we love from behind locked doors. 6 months after that first meeting, the three of us gathered again. This time at Julian's apartment in Chicago. He'd invited us for Thanksgiving. Said it was time we started building traditions instead of just sharing trauma. Emma brought her parents. After weeks of difficult conversations, they'd made peace with the truth. Mrs. Hutchinson hugged me when she arrived, apologized for her anger in Raleigh. Said she understood now why I'd done what I did. We sat around Julian's dining table, this strange patchwork family Clarissa had created but never let exist, and for the first time, it felt right. Not perfect. Not without pain. But right. "I want to say something," Emma said, setting down her fork. I've been thinking a lot about her, about why she did what she did. And I think I understand now. Yeah, Julian asked. She was broken. From the beginning. Her parents rejected her when she got pregnant with you. Society told her she was worthless, and she believed it. She spent her whole life trying to prove she wasn't the mess everyone said she was. So she built a perfect life, I said. Or what looked like one from the outside. Exactly. But perfect lives require perfect lies. And she got trapped in them. Julian nodded. I used to be angry at her for not being brave enough to tell the truth. But now I realize how much courage it took just to keep going. To love us the only way she thought she could. She did love us, I said quietly. I see that now. The office wasn't about keeping secrets. It was about keeping us safe. All of us. In the only way she knew how. Mrs. Hutchinson spoke up. I'm grateful she chose us to raise Emma. We've had 22 beautiful years together. And I think Clarissa knew we'd love her the way she couldn't. She knew a lot of things, I said. She just didn't know how to share them. After dinner, Julian showed us something he'd been working on. Architectural drawings for a community center he was designing in Chicago. In the center of the building was a meditation garden. I'm naming it after her, he said. The Clarissa Kane Memorial Garden. A place for people to find peace when they're carrying heavy things. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She'd love that. Would she? Julian asked. I keep wondering if she'd be proud of us. Or disappointed that we're making her public when she spent her whole life hiding. She'd be proud, I said. Because you're doing what she couldn't. You're choosing truth over silence. Openness over walls. That night, after everyone left, Julian and I sat on his balcony overlooking the city. The lights stretched out forever, millions of lives happening all at once. Just like Clarissa's life had been, multiple versions existing simultaneously, never quite connecting. Can I ask you something? Julian said. Sure. Do you still love her? Even now. I thought about the question. Really thought about it. 6 months ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. But now, after everything, the answer was more complicated. I love who she was trying to be, I said. But I'm angry at who she became. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. He paused. I feel the same way. I love the mom who wrote me letters and sent me money and made sure I had everything I needed. But I'm angry at the mom who couldn't show up. Who couldn't claim me. But she did show up. In her own way. It wasn't enough. No, I agreed. It wasn't. But it was something. And maybe that's what we have to hold on to. The something instead of the nothing. When I got back to Crestwood, I did something I'd been avoiding. I went to Clarissa's grave. First time since the funeral. I'd been too angry before. Too hurt. But now, standing there with flowers in my hand, I felt different. I met them, I said to the headstone. Julian and Emma. They're good people. You did okay with them, even if you couldn't be there. The wind rustled through the willow trees. Birds sang somewhere in the distance. I'm not going to say I forgive you. I don't know if I can. But I understand you better now. And I think that's worth something. I placed the flowers on her grave. White lilies. Her favorite. We're going to be okay. All of us. We're building something you never could. And I think, maybe, that's what you wanted all along. I stood there for a while longer, then walked back to my car. As I drove away, I looked at the cemetery in my rearview mirror. The place where Clarissa's body rested, but her secrets had finally been released. Back at the house, I sat on the porch swing one last time. The same spot where I'd spent 32 years waiting for her to finish work. Waiting for her to come back to me. She never really did. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some people aren't meant to be fully known. Maybe some loves exist in pieces, and we just do the best we can with the fragments we're given. I picked up my phone and texted Julian and Emma. Thanksgiving was good. Let's do Christmas too. My place this time. They both replied within minutes. Julian, sounds perfect. Emma, can't wait. 3 words. Simple. But they meant everything. Clarissa had spent her whole life keeping us apart. Locked behind doors. Hidden in separate boxes. But death had done what life never could. It had opened those doors and let us find each other. And maybe that was the lesson. Maybe that was what she'd been trying to teach us all along without knowing it herself. You can't build love on silence. Secrets don't protect the people you care about. They just isolate them. And when you finally open those locked doors, when you finally let the truth breathe, what you find isn't always destruction. Sometimes, it's family. Sometimes, it's forgiveness. Sometimes, it's a new beginning built on the ruins of old lies. I went inside and climbed the stairs to her office one more time. I stood in the doorway, looking at the photographs on the wall, the letters on the desk, the safe standing open like a mouth finally done speaking. Then I did something I'd been thinking about for weeks. I started taking down the photographs. Carefully. One by one. I packed them in boxes, one for Julian, one for Emma, one for me. These weren't just her memories anymore. They were ours. And we all deserved to hold them. I left the office door open. No more locks. No more barriers. Just an empty room waiting to become something new. Maybe I'd turn it into a library. Or a guest room for when Julian and Emma visited. Or maybe I'd just leave it empty for a while. A space to breathe. A reminder that not every room needs to be filled with secrets. That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time since Clarissa died. Not in her chair. Not surrounded by her letters. Just me, in the home we'd shared, finally able to rest. I dreamed about her. Not the woman who died keeping secrets. But the girl I'd met in that college coffee shop 34 years ago. The one with dreams bigger than her fear. The one who wasn't broken yet. In the dream, she smiled at me. You figured it out, she said. Figured what out? That love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. It just has to be honest. I woke up with tears on my face. But they weren't sad tears. They were the kind that come when you finally understand something that's been hurting you for a long time. Clarissa wasn't a villain. She wasn't a monster. She was just a woman who loved too much and trusted too little. Who built walls when she should have built bridges. Who locked doors when she should have left them open. And me. I was the man who loved her anyway. Who still loves her. Even with all the broken pieces. Even with all the lies. Because love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. About trying. About choosing truth even when it's terrifying. Clarissa couldn't do that. But Julian, Emma, and I could. We could be what she wasn't. We could build what she couldn't. And maybe, in some way, that would honor her more than any locked room ever did. Christmas came. Julian and Emma arrived with suitcases and gifts and nervous smiles. Emma's parents came too. Julian's wife Sophie drove down from Chicago. We filled that big empty house with laughter and cooking and stories. We sat around the tree, this impossible family, and shared memories. Not just of Clarissa, but of ourselves. Our own lives. Our own dreams. Emma talked about wanting to become a teacher. Julian showed us blueprints for his next project, a housing complex for single mothers. Sophie told embarrassing stories about Julian that made him blush. And I realized something. Clarissa's greatest gift wasn't the money she left us. It wasn't even the love she tried to give from behind locked doors. It was bringing us together. Three people who never should have met. Who never would have existed in each other's lives if she hadn't carried her secrets to the grave. Her death opened the doors she'd kept locked. And behind those doors wasn't just pain. It was possibility. Before they left, Emma pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not giving up. For finding us. For making this happen." She gestured at the house, at Julian and Sophie laughing in the living room, at the home that finally felt full again. "She couldn't do it. But you did." "We all did it," I said. "Together." She hugged me. "I'm glad she married you. Even if she never told you everything, I think she chose right." After they drove away, I stood on the porch one last time. The same porch where I'd waited for 32 years. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I walked inside, climbed the stairs, and stood in the doorway of what used to be Clarissa's office. The walls were bare now. The desk empty. The safe closed but unlocked. Just a room. Nothing more. Nothing less. I turned off the light and closed the door. Not locked. Never locked again. Just closed. Because some doors don't need locks. Some secrets don't need to be kept forever. And some loves, even the broken, complicated, messy ones, deserve to finally breathe free. I learned that you can't build love on silence. You can't protect people by hiding truth. And you can't live fully when you're locked behind doors of your own making. Clarissa tried. She tried so hard. But fear won. And in the end, her secrets didn't protect anyone. They just kept us all alone. But we're not alone anymore. Julian, Emma, and I found each other in the wreckage of her lies. And we're building something real. Something honest. Something she would have wanted if only she'd been brave enough to want it while she was alive. That's the lesson I'll carry forward. That's what I learned from the wife who locked her office every night. Love bravely. Speak truthfully. And never, ever let fear convince you that walls are safer than windows. Because behind every locked door is a truth waiting to set you free. And sometimes, just sometimes, that truth isn't destruction. It's family. It's healing. It's a second chance to get it right. And that's worth more than any secret ever was. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about the secrets we keep and the walls we build, then I hope you'll share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another story about love, loss, and the courage it takes to live honestly. And please, drop a comment below. Tell us about a time when truth set you free, or when silence kept you trapped. Your story might inspire someone else to open their own locked doors. Thank you for being part of this family. Until next time, remember, love doesn't live behind locked doors. It lives in the light.